You've started recording. Good morning. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our webinar on industry performance for the month of October. I'm sure all of you had a very great weekend, a very festive weekend with your family and friends. And please accept my greetings on this festive occasions for you as well. So today we will be discussing the performance of the Indian pharma industry for the month of October. In today's discussion, we will be covering therapy performance, how the different therapies have performed, the growth drivers, how the different corporates have performed, brand performance, new introduction trends, how have new introductions got impacted in the last 24 months, and how have the new molecules that have been launched in the market, how they have performed in the last 10 to 12 months. Then we have key takeaways. And in our section on opinions that matter today, we have a really interesting topic on sales force effectiveness, its importance, and how it helps to achieve our budgets. We are having opinions about two stalwarts from the industry. I will not elaborate much because I leave it to the end for the interview. So starting with the therapy performance, what we have seen is over here in the slide, we have added all the therapies in the descending order of value. For the MAT period, majority of the therapies are showing a good growth. Overall, the market is showing a growth of around 14.7%. However, for the month of October, the growth of the market is at around 5%. If the growth of the market is at 5%, is it that all the therapies have gone down in terms of growth? Not really. There are certain therapies like gastro, respiratory, pain, analgesics, which among the top therapies, which continue to grow with a good double-digit growth. Therapies such as cardiac, diabetes, nutritionals, derma, they are the ones which have gone down in terms of growth. Otherwise, net, among the top therapies, it is the gastro, respiratory, and pain analgesics, which are continuing to grow at a double digit. Now, if we were to understand why is it that only these therapies are still growing at a double digit, then probably we need to look at the past history of the last 12 to 24 months growth trend, especially in the COVID period, how these therapies had behaved in the month of October 20. So what we have done over here is we have plotted the monthly growth trend across the different therapies. Wherever I have highlighted in orange or pinkish color, it is that period where the growth had been really on a lower side. So if you see this time period from April 20 to September 20, majority of the therapy areas were in red, especially as far as the growth is concerned. And the therapy areas which really continued to perform very poorly for a very long time were the respiratory and pain and analgesic therapies, where the growth continued to be on a lower side. Cardiac therapy, probably because of the fear and hoarding factor, continued to grow at a double digit for quite some time. However, the growth slowed down for the cardio and diabetes therapy later on. Now, how did the scenario look after October 20? From November 20 onwards. If you see in this April to September 20 period, for majority of the therapy areas, we were in pink or in the red zone. Whereas if you were to look at the same thing, same period in the consecutive year from April 21 to September 21, the growth of majority of the therapy areas appear to be in green. And when I'm talking in green, it is a good, robust, double-digit growth that majority of these therapy areas have seen. The reason for the same is one was the correction of the major dip that these therapies had shown in the previous year. Then genuinely, because of the second wave, there was an increase in the demand. Also, as the second wave subsided, there was a gradual return in the seasonality trend of the disease patterns. So these are the three parameters which actually helped in the correction of the growth that happened from April 21 to September 21. How did the growth look in the period of October 20? If you see, after a major lull in growth from April 20 to September 20, October growth was quite good. So October overall, there was no dip in the growth that was shown in the last same time last year. Probably that may be one of the reasons why the double digit growth that we have been seeing from April 21 to September 21 is not visible for the month of October. So this is we are trying to read the data and try to understand why this phenomena may be occurring. Also, if I were to just remove the clutter and focus on only on the top 10 therapies, the top 10 therapies, they contribute to almost, I would say, 80% of the IPM. Gastro was the only therapy where the growth has been exceptionally double digit over last year. Because if you see in October 20, gastro segment had shown a double digit growth. So it was not that the growth was low. That's the reason why we are seeing a double digit growth. But the gastrotherapy showed a very good growth in October 20 as well as October 21. So this is one therapy where the behavior is probably little different. Otherwise, when it comes to respiratory pain segment, this double digit growth is not a surprise because same period last year the growth was not very great, and in fact, respiratory segment continued to grow very badly right up to March 21. Corrective action started only in April, May onwards, when the second wave hit us very badly. Similarly, if you look at the pain and analgesics portfolio, even over here, though the growth is not negative for December, Jan, Feb, but still the growth was on a very lower side even after October 20 period. So I'm not predicting it, but I can expect if I were to look at these trend lines, probably because of the corrective action and return of the seasonality trend, these two therapies may continue to grow slightly better even in the consecutive months. Okay, when we talked about October growth being very low as 5%, is it a very exceptional thing? Not really. What try to do is we try to look at the October growth in the previous years, October 18, 19, 20, 21. If you see in the pre-COVID time, that is just 1 year before October 2020, in October 19 as well, the market had shown a growth of around 5%. It's not that every year in the month of October, the market shows a very low growth. In the previous year, in the month of October, the growth was very good across all therapy areas. So low growth in the month of October is not necessarily a COVID phenomena. It has happened in the past as well. Coming to the growth drivers, if I were to look at the growth driver for the month of October, we have plotted the growth drivers for all the last probably several months. Last 2 years, we have plotted the growth drivers. In the month of October, if you see, the growth is majorly a price-driven growth. In this month, volumes have brought the growth down. New introductions, the contribution is slightly lower side, but majorly the growth of the market for this month is the price-driven growth. If I were to look at the key therapy areas, it's not the key therapy areas. In fact, we have looked at all the therapy areas. Majority, the top 10 therapy areas are lying over here. It is only the two high growth therapy areas for this period, which is the respiratory and the pain segment. It is only these two therapy areas where volume driven growth is still on a higher side. Again, a corrective action because this growth is growth over same period last year. Same period last year, these two therapy areas had fallen down significantly. So it is a growth over that period because of which this seems to be on a higher side. If you look in terms of anti-infectives, the new product driven growth is negative. Obviously, because it was these COVID related anti-infectives which had driven the growth of the market for so many months. As the COVID wave subsides, the fear goes down, the demand for drugs which are directly related for treatment of COVID falls down, this growth comes down. So majorly, most of the top key therapy areas, the volume driven growth is negative for the month of October. Coming to the corporate performance. So when we are saying that the market has grown by 5%, have all the corporates grown by 5% for the month of October? Not really. Because if you see, overall the market has grown by 5%. But companies like Sun, Mankind, Torrent, Macleods, Intas, Aristo, DRL, MQR, GSK, Micro, IPCA, So almost these companies, if you see collectively, they contribute to around 40% of the IPM. These companies which contribute to 40% of the IPM, they still continue to grow at a robust double digit or at least a single digit growth, which is fairly equal to or better than the overall market growth. However, there are other stalwart companies which are probably very good or equally good in terms of value and volume who have degrown significantly, which are pulling down the growth of the market. Now, is this degrowth something which is going to last for a very long time? May not be, because if you see growth of these companies is majorly because of the COVID related portfolio which they had in their kitty, which had a very high demand for quite some time in the past, and the demand has now gone down. So as the demand normalizes, we go back into our seasonal trend of demand. Probably the growth for these companies also will stabilize over a period of time. I mean, the next 20 players, which contribute to around 15% of the IPM, even over here, we are seeing a good number of companies which continue to have a good double digit growth. So, net, even if the market has grown by 5%, there are a good number of players, a significant chunk of players which contribute to almost 40% of the IPM, which has continued to grow a healthy growth. So the situation or the scenario is not completely pessimistic for many of the companies. It's only a portfolio driven negative growth, which may, or portfolio driven low growth, which may stabilize over a period of time. Coming to the brand performance, over here we have plotted the brands in descending order of value, that is the MAT value. So at a MAT level, Fabiflu continues to stay at a number 1 position. However, for the month of October, Fabiflu, Zincovit, which were up in the rankings because the COVID-related demand was high, for the month of October, the demand has gone down. However, if I look at the ranks of the brands, Monosef, Augmentin, Mixtard, Glycomed, GP, and Lantus, they continue to maintain their rank over the last month. So for the month of September, these brands had the same rank, and for the month of October, they also have the same rank. So these brands have now started going up on their topmost lots. Also, if I were to look at the next 20 brands, that was the top 20 brands, but the next 20 brands, which is rank 21 to rank 40, it is in this scenario also where a good number of shift of ranks has started happening. If you see typically brands which were absolutely COVID demand related brands, their value for the month of October will obviously go down because the demand is not there. Coming to the new introductions. Over here, we try to look at a very interesting activity in terms of how companies behave in terms of new introductions. We try to look at how many new introductions have happened in the market. Did the companies launch products only looking at the COVID opportunity, or is it that the COVID opportunity drugs they really did well? Let us look at this. So what we have done over here is we have plotted the number of new introductions. All these numbers over here are the number of new introductions that have happened in the month of November, December, Jan, Feb, etc. The ones which I have highlighted in orange, these are the COVID peak months. So this September 20 was the peak of wave 1 and May 21 was the peak of wave 2. Then we have looked at the new introductions that have happened in the last 24 months, and this is a 24-month average. So on an average, in the anti-infectives, close to 15 brands were launched in a month in the last 24 months. And the ones which we have highlighted in green color are the months where the number of new introductions that have happened are greater than or equal to the 24-month average. So the interesting part is, if I were to look at the last 10 from the period, say Jan 21 to October 21, on an average for the IPM, out of the last 10 months, there are close to 7 months where the number of new introductions that have happened in the market are more than or equal to the 24-month average. If I were to look at the same thing for some of the therapies, you will see in the nutritional segment, anti-infective segment, segments like pain analgesics, derma, neuro CNS, the number of new introductions that have happened for these therapies are greater than the 24-month average in many places. Now, comparing absolute numbers may not make sense because there are certain therapies which are absolutely mass market. Therefore, the average number of new introductions may be on a higher side, and some of the therapy areas which may be relatively niche therapies where the number of new introductions may be on a slightly lower side. But net net, if you see in the last 10 months or the period from Jan 21 to October 21, there are many therapies where the average number of new introductions that have happened in a month are much more than the last 24-month average. It is possible that all the new introductions could not fetch that value, but yes, many companies tried to make the most of the COVID opportunity. Then coming to the, this was about overall number of new introductions. Then what we try to also look at what are the total number of brands that were launched in the market. Close to 4,500 brands were launched in the market, and these brands collectively gave a turnover of around 5,600. Now, these brands that were launched in the market were irrespective whether the molecule has been launched in the market for the first time in the last 24 months or the existing molecule. Then we thought it was also important to look at the molecules which were launched in the last 24 months. How much value could those new molecules garner? So if you see, there were close to 50 new molecules or molecular combinations that were launched in the market in the last 24 months. So collectively, there were close to 224 to 250 brands that were launched in the market. And these new molecules, which were absolutely launched for the first time in the market, they have collectively given a value of around 2,000 crores. So out of the 5,500 crores, close to 2,000 crores comes from the molecules which have been launched in the market for the first time. And from these 2,000 crores, close to 2,100 crores, close to 1,800 crores comes from only favipiravir and remdesivir. So these top two molecules, they contribute to around 83% of the value, which comes from the absolutely new molecules. And these I have actually written down only the top 20, though 50 new molecules or molecular combinations have been launched. I have put only the top 50 molecules in the top 20 molecules in this table. And these top 20 molecules, they are contributing to almost 90% of the value. So net in terms of new introductions, the stars for this year have been favipiravir and remdesivir, which have contributed to they have actually given a very high contribution to the new introductions for this year. So this was about the new introductions. And if I were to talk overall for the key takeaways, how do we look at the market and how do we look at the prognosis of the market in the future? So while the IPM shows a growth of around 5% for the month of October, there are certain therapy areas like gastro, respiratory, pain, analgesics that continues to show a robust double-digit growth. A similar phenomena is seen at a corporate level as well, where all the corporates have not grown by 5%. There are a good number of corporates which collectively contribute to around 40% of the IPM, which have shown a robust growth for the month of October. Growth for the month of October is majorly price driven. It is volumes which have brought down the growth across majority of the therapy areas except the respiratory and the pain segment. The monthly rank for the top 5 brands remains unchanged against last month. The new introductions activity has been quite encouraging across many therapy areas in the year 2021, though it seems to have slowed down in the month of October. Favipiravir and remdesivir, they contribute a significant chunk to the new introductions value. So with this, our understanding of the IPM for the month of October 21, this was just a glimpse. Later on, we can connect with our servicing executives for having a better in-depth understanding of how the market has behaved. From there, we move to our next section, which is opinions that matter. And in this section, we will be looking at key hygiene aspects to success in pharmaceutical sales and marketing, whether it is just the monthly target achievement that is important, or is it meeting the doctors, having that SFE hygiene, which is important. And we have on our panel today, Mr. P.K. Datta, who is the Managing Director of Systopec Labs, and Mr. Pradeep Patni, who is CEO of Acumentis Healthcare, who will be discussing about their views. We will be getting their views about what they feel is important to ensure success in pharmaceutical sales and marketing. Richa, our coordinator for this panel, I'm handing over this session to Richa, where she will start with this discussion with the panelists. Over to you, Richa.
A very good morning to everyone joining us for this latest edition of Opinions That Matter. With the target setting season just around the corner for most of us, we believe this would be an ideal time to discuss on a topic of Salesforce productivity optimization. Any MBA college worth its salt would swear by the saying, strategy is useless without execution, and there is nothing called as a bad strategy. Keeping this as a backdrop, when we talk about pharma sales, there are many different schools of thought. However, processes and target achievement remain at the center for all. For our discussion today, we have the honor of having two stalwarts who have groomed their teams in very different ways and yet followed the same principles of success. Our first panelist today morning is Mr. Pradeep Patni, CEO of Acumentis Healthcare Limited. Under Patni sir's guidance, Acumentis has undergone a sea change in terms of performance and productivity in the past 1 year, and the organization is back on a growth trajectory after a very long time. Our next panelist is one of the most respected personalities in the pharma industry today, Shri P.K. Datta, Managing Director of Systopic Labs Private Limited. Under Datta sir's guidance and vision, Systopic as a company is focused on ensuring medicine for the poorest of poor. I welcome both our panelists to Opinions That Matter. Patni sir, I would like to start by asking you to tell us about your views on what is more important, target achievement or SFE hygiene.
Would obviously depend on the context. One needs to look at the cost and benefit of both the options and take considered call. SFE hygiene takes precedence over everything else because in trying to achieve a month's target, it could actually muck up the entire year as well as the orientation of the team, which is extremely important. From this perspective, I would believe that SFE hygiene does matter a lot and should be given a higher importance.
Datta sir, is someone who has seen the industry evolve over the years. What are your opinions on this?
I personally feel, and our company personally feels, that we have to follow the standards set by our customers. So I think we believe in health and hygiene first.
That means basic process of meeting customers with regularity is far more important than target achievement alone. So sir, if I may ask, as the head of the organization, what all parameters do you evaluate your team on?
That's what you see. There's a difference. Normally, the people in the sales, they think they look after the sales. Sales means business. Sales means commercial part. And we as a company believe in process. And what is the difference between sales and the process? The difference is the medical representative is visiting the doctor not for business only. He is visiting the doctor as a process to represent the company, and if the doctor develops some credibility and love for our medical representative, he may prescribe or patronize our product. Simple. Follow the system which we follow. We are not evaluating each and every call of a medical representative that you call this doctor, what this doctor is prescribing. But we have a primary range of brands which the doctor has the maximum potential to write, and we have a secondary range of brands. Now, what is a secondary range? For example, the primary range for a gastroenterologist will be products like PPI and other products. But I'm for very sure know this thing that majority of gastroenterologists are not going to write my PPI. Though I'm a brand leader in PPI, but I know they will not write my product. So what we do, we promote them Normexin,
Okay.
which is my brand for irritable bowel syndrome. We promote them folic acid. So which is a secondary brand in a gastroenterologist prescription, and even Normexin is a primary brand. So we are very happy if doctors, majority of gastroenterologists write our Normexin, but they will not write my PPI. So now from where I will get PPI business? The PPI business I will get from physicians, GPs, and then I will get from orthopedics. Because so very simple thing to do. No targets are ever given by the company. Only protocol process is followed. That's all.
All right. So basically, the evaluation is on if the specialty wise product grid is being followed and the visit patterns are being maintained. Now, Patni sir, if I were the head of sales who's recently been elevated, what would you advise me to evaluate my team on?
Obviously, the most important parameters are the ones you drive for sales performance, both in short as well as long term. Invariably, percent target achievement, growth, coverage, compliance have to be monitored and has to be more than the prescribed limit. That's a must. The other areas to be monitored as the team gets more evolved is the spread of PCPM, for instance, number of people achieving incentives, new product launches, sales mix, extremely important when the brands are of different profitability, and of course the AWOX and SMSRC data, which give you a sense vis-a-vis the competition.
Okay, so it has to be a 360-degree evaluation on each parameter. But then, Datta sir, I'm a little confused. How does this topic manage call reporting and revenue achievement when there are no targets given to the medical representative?
No, we agree with you. We do not exert, we do not insist upon them to fill certain data. You will be surprised that there are no medical representative reporting to head office. Our medical representatives report to our RSM, regional sales managers, and they in turn report to our zonal sales managers. And each and every zonal sales manager has got around I think 2 to 3 or 4 RSMs working for him. And each RSM has got around 5 to 7 people, depending upon the seniority of RSM. So similarly, so they follow the norms. Our regional sales managers submit us the data of calls, and they submit to their ZSMs, and then their ZSMs we have a EDP department in head office, which possibly follows up with them. But majority of the time, for marketing needs and other needs, we depend upon sources like you people. We come to know from them how things are. We do not exert with our medical representatives that they have to send any reporting. And he is meeting the doctors very earnestly. There is no need for such a follow-up because you see, our business is secondary. Our business is not primary. Whatever a medical representative sells is not our business. Whatever a medical representative liquidates in the market, that is our business.
Right.
I think we are the only company in India which has followed secondary business right from our inception.
Okay, so there is evaluation, but not on primary sales, but on secondary sales achievement. Now, this actually brings me to another issue. Patni sir, in corporates with multiple divisions, KOL development program becomes a little tricky as each division may end up focusing on the same HCP where there is a overlap of therapy areas of interest. How do we manage this?
QL development is an extremely important element of promotion for any brand which the company has in the marketplace, especially more in the specialty and the super specialty segment. You cannot but be most particular as far as building and management of key opinion leaders is concerned. Therefore, it is imperative that HO is actively involved in planning, execution, and monitoring of all KOL related activities, including, of course, the right selection. This will create a high level impact as well as build layers of relationship with important doctors who really, really matter.
So there is one more very important issue that we collectively face as an industry, that is attrition. Now, over the years, we have witnessed an increase in attrition at the grassroots level. The average lifespan today of a medical representative is probably around 1.5 to 2 years. As an organization, when I spend so much of time, effort, and money on training of a medical representative and then see him join another organization for a very small hike, I kind of feel cheated in many ways. Datta sir, you had earlier mentioned that there are no targets for the medical representative in your organization. Do you also face attrition? Also, what are your views, sir, on training of the medical representatives?
The medical representatives who leave us are around 10 to 15% only,
Okay.
not more than that. Because in our company, people are staying. When they join the company, they come and they want to be with us, they want to join us, they are part of the organization as such. But we strongly believe in training, we strongly believe in grooming, we strongly believe in knowledge enhancement, and that is constantly happening. That is continuously happening. So I am of the view that training is a must.
Patni sir, what are your opinions on this?
Irrespective of level of attrition, I would believe that training is an extremely important element. When a representative of your company makes a call on a customer, it has to be in always the best way. Whether the same rep will continue or not, the impact on customer, especially if it is negative, will still be there. So I would suggest that each rep has to be adequately trained well and evaluated before she is allowed to face the customer. The cost benefit ratio still is skewed towards training your rep well, irrespective of the level of attrition.
So, there we have it. There are no shortcuts to success. Working on the basics is the correct way to long term sustainable growth. Well, thank you so much, sir. It was a pleasure speaking to both of you, and this was probably one of the most interesting and enlightening discussions that we have had on this forum. With this, we also conclude the webinar on IPM performance highlights for the month of October 2021. Thank you all for joining us today morning. Have a great day ahead.